Chef Fabian Vitelli was a world-renowned chef known for his delicious all-meat dishes and massive cookbook detailing each one. He'd cooked for nearly every kingdom on Jornhelm and was loved by many, except for the offshore kingdom of Veliscaria, due to a debacle involving the princess, a giant squid, and a botched public execution. One day, he was summoned by leaders from the Church of the Immortal Green. They were holding a ceremony soon and wanted him to be the head cook for all 600+ monks. He eagerly accepted and was escorted to the church over the course of the following week, only to find that everyone in the Immortal Green was a militant vegetarian. Luckily for him, the forest that surrounded them was rife with carnivorous plants that could be cooked down as a rather tasty meat substitute. So he got to work. Hello and welcome to the third episode of Monsters Misguided. Today we'll be going over 3 homebrewed carnivorous plants for you to add into your home games. Stumbling through the dark forest with his team, Chef Fabian came across the first plant when one of his team members was yanked 10 feet into the air by an unseen tendril. They'd encountered the Volmerian needle fruit. Yeah, it's a cool name, really proud of that one. Growing to a maximum of 15 feet tall and 10 feet in diameter at the base, the needle fruit is a very imposing plant. Its primary weapon is a sac on the end of its prehensile neck, capable of ejecting numerous spear-like thorns to kill its prey, with either a precise direct shot or a less accurate area of effect spray. It also makes use of a writhing field of roots around it, causing anyone walking near it to have quite a difficult time. Luckily, it has one large weakness. Its needling sac is fueled by gases generated by decomposition of life in its base. Dealing enough cold damage to it will effectively shut down its ability to throw needles. However, it can still make use of its tentacles to crush and throw. Watch out, once a needle fruit is killed, its needle sac can be harvested and cut up to cook together a tasty steak-like dish. However, the gas it produces to shoot its needles is very toxic, and the residue must be cooked out of the fibers with a successful herbalism kit check. The needles can also be used as blowgun ammunition if you have one handy. Moving further into the forest, Chef Fabian began to grow tense. Another party member had gone missing, quietly, and he wasn't sure where they lost him at. Backtracking along the group's steps, they eventually found him, dazed and staring up inside a small cave. Above him was a massive purple flower, sprinkling some sort of magical pollen down on him. They had just encountered the second ingredient, the dream flower. Always growing on the undersides of large hanging roots and the ceilings of caves, the dream flower, unlike the other plants on the list, doesn't feed off meat. It instead blasts a large cloud of pollen over people and locks them in a dream state, feeding off their brainwaves until one of the two of them dies. Its main form of offense is its pollen blast, though it has a very short range, only affecting those adjacent to it. However, it can counter long-ranged attacks with its shield form. It closes its petals in a tight coil, and thanks to the petals' incredibly tough undersides, it becomes resistant to quite a lot of damage. During this time, it also begins building up a stronger pollen burst that scales in range and damage for every round it's shut. Once killed, its pollen can be harvested to create a tasty flower beer, granting resistance to psychic damage and advantage on wisdom saving throws for 1d4 hours. Its petals can also be harvested to create a jerky-like item known to taste somewhat like pork. Finally, Chef Vitelli encountered the third item when one of his final kitchen hands fell down a pit and into its mouth. The Vacus Cauldron Plant is a subterranean carnivore that uses a clever system of camouflage to appear as undergrowth of whatever forest it grows in. It eats by using a thick jelly inside its basin to dissolve any creature unfortunate enough to fall inside. Anyone inside takes massive acid damage, also finding it incredibly difficult to climb out. Better yet, it also has an inaccurate but devastating AoE defense mechanism where it forces the corrosive jelly from its vat, causing it to shower down on those around it. Killing it requires one to attack directly into its mouth, although with melee weapons this is very risky as it may try to push people in with its camouflage appendages. Thankfully, what can be harvested from it just about makes the fight worth it. The jelly in its cauldron can be extracted and rendered down to create either a savory sweet glaze or, with a few added mushrooms, a meaty tasting gravy. And that was it. Fabian had collected as much material as he could from the forest, so he hurried back to the kitchen building and got to work. Over the next day, he created a buffet of large steaks from the needle fruit, seasoning them with spices mixed with the pollen from the dream flower. He then used the pollen and shreds of dream flower petals to create an array of irresistible meads and teas. Finally, he created a soup using a bit of the thin jelly from the Cauldron Plant and various other, less vicious plants from the forest. Fabian rolled out the meal and waited with bated breath as the monks began to chow down. It was an instant hit, everyone loved it, and Fabian marked another tick on his record. The night went on, and the following morning, Fabian left the recipes with the monks and began his journey back to the capital, intent on getting a good rest. Finally. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Monsters Misguided. Hope you all enjoyed this one. Just like with the Goblin episode, the stat blocks for these monsters will be available at a later date, with patrons getting first. If you haven't already, go follow me on Twitter. I post channel updates there, and I'm posting a little bit of doodles here and there. I don't know, it's fun. See you next time.